Donald Trump, former president to the United States, who had his home raided and invaded by the FBI, is now responding. Of course, Merrick Garland from the U.S. Department of Justice came out. He is the attorney general, the chief prosecutor, and he revealed to us all that he approved the search warrant, the raid of Trump's residence at Mar-a-Lago, as you can see here. Now, a lot of questions surround this invasion. Why? Because apparently Donald Trump and the FBI and the DOJ and the U.S. Attorney's Office, apparently they sort of had an agreement. They had kind of an understanding. They had worked through a lot of these issues previously. And in fact, this story comes over from the Wall Street Journal, and it tells us, look at this date. It tells us the headline. It says, the FBI quest for Trump documents started not with a raid, not with a 4 a.m. invasion by FBI agents. It started with breezy chats and a tour of a crowded closet. Now, the Wall Street Journal tells us why interactions between the FBI and the Trump team soured. It remains a mystery. Nobody knows. But as you can see from their reporting, they tell us we can rewind the clock all the way back to June 3rd. Over 2 months before this happened, a senior Justice Department national security supervisor, which is where Merrick Garland works, and 3 FBI agents, the same people who raided him in August. In June, they arrived at President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home in Florida to discuss boxes with government records sitting in a basement storage room, along with suits, sweaters, and golf shoes. A few days later, FBI sent a note, right, which is probably documented somewhere, written around somewhere, asking that a stronger lock be installed on the storage room, signing off saying, "Thank you, very truly yours, Jay Bratt, Chief of Counterintelligence and Export Control Section." So, I got to assume that because they're typing this in this article that they've got a copy of that letter. In the following weeks, however, someone familiar with the stored papers told investigators there may still be more classified documents at the private club. This is the mole at Mar-a-Lago. After the National Archives retrieves 15 boxes earlier this year, people familiar with the matter said, right? So, in other words, Donald Trump had already had documents returned to the National Archives without a raid. So there's prior history here. So why did they have to do a raid? Justice Department officials had doubts that the Trump team was being truthful about what material remained at the property, they said. Okay, I'd like to see the evidence for that. Newsweek reported earlier that there is a mole. Now, 2 months later, 24 FBI agents were back at Mar-a-Lago with a warrant predicated on convincing a federal magistrate judge there was evidence of a crime. Many elements of what happened between those two events, one which was cordial, the other which was unheard of, they say, right? One is the nice, peaceful conversation about returning the documents, which apparently happened 15 boxes previously. FBI agents, 3 of them, and DOJ officials came over to Trump's residence. And they said, hey, can we look around? Yeah. You want to put a stronger lock on that closet? Yeah, no problem at all. Happy to do it. So why did they raid him now if they have a prior course of relationship with him? Good question. Now, it has prompted outrage from Republicans who have now rallied around Donald Trump, obviously. The mystery about why they went, and flipped a switch may be resolved by the Justice Department's next step. Christopher Wray declined to comment. Trump and his lawyers say, we've cooperated with a months-long effort by the government to retrieve some of the material he took from the White House. They expressed outrage. They say, we've been cooperating with them for a long time. Monday and the search, we know, came after weeks of internal deliberation from senior Justice Department officials, now confirmed to have been approved by Merrick Garland himself. In January, the archives got 15 boxes of documents and other items from Mar-a-Lago. No raid, no search warrant, no invasion. Boxes contain documents that officials described only as classified national security information. So, right, if this does get unsealed, this warrant, I'm going to guess it's going to be a lot of that, right? The warrant, the inventory, everything we see on there, box of classified, or it's all going to be redacted. So for people to, to sort of, I think, put their eggs in the, people are trying to say Trump should release it or the DOJ should release it. And it's really, I think, inconsequential. I don't think we're going to see anything that's in there anyways, to be honest. Aides to Mr. Trump have said they had been cooperating with the department to get the matter settled. Former president even popped into the June 3rd meeting at Mar-a-Lago. Trump was there. He walked in. Thank you, FBI agents. Great to have you here. I love our FBI agents. We have the best. I appreciate the job you're doing, he said. Anything you need, let us know. 5 days later, Trump attorney Evan Corcoran received an email from Mr. Bratt at the FBI. He's the chief of counterintelligence and export control, which is, preventing people from taking things they're not supposed to take. He oversees these investigations. So an email comes from this guy. He says, we ask that the room at Mar-a-Lago where the documents had been stored be secured and that all the boxes that were moved from the White House to Mar-a-Lago, along with any other items in that room, be preserved in that room in their current condition until further notice. That was read to the Wall Street Journal over the phone. Okay, so somebody's reading them an email. A source is saying, I have this email from the National Archives. I have this email from the Justice Department guy, the lawyer from counterintelligence and export control. Oh, you have those documents? No problem. Yeah, just don't touch them, okay? Just move them, whatever, leave them there, preserve them in that room, leave them in their current condition, and just leave them alone. Okay. Corcoran, Trump's lawyer, he writes back. He says, Jay, thank you. I write to acknowledge receipt of this letter with best regards. Evan, got it. No problem. By the next day, according to a person familiar with the events, a larger lock was placed on the door. Complied. 1 day. That is Mar-a-Lago service. You want breakfast, 9 o'clock sharp. Boom, it's there at 8:59. Boom. Sir, here you go. Room service. We need to secure the classified file cabinet locker. Sure, Mr. Trump, no problem. It's done. It's done over there. It was the last communication between the men until Monday's search of Mar-a-Lago. So then they just raided him, which is really nice, right? You've got this nice relationship between Mr. Bratt and Mr. Corcoran. We'll lock the doors. We'll do whatever you need. Perfect. Great. I'm going to show up in 2 months with FBI agents up your derriere. On June 22nd, the Trump Organization, the name of Mr. Trump's family business, they received a subpoena for surveillance footage. That footage was turned over on June 22nd. Sunday morning, August 8th, new set of agents arrived, began to search for documents around 9 a.m. The warrant signed off on by Judge Reinhardt, as we talked about, refers to the Presidential Records Act and a possible violation of the law over mishandling of classified information. Is it Espionage Act? I don't know. We already talked about that. Warrant hasn't been made public yet, but it may. FBI's officials showed up and all of them, they targeted 3 rooms, a bedroom and an office and a storage room. One of them said the agents went undetected for most of the day until a Florida political blogger tweeted about it. Under siege and raided by a group of FBI agents. They walked away with 10 more boxes of material, and Trump and his people responded. So absolutely, it sounds like they were actually engaging with Trump's legal team up until they decided to raid him. So what happened there? And that is not appropriate, okay? Like, if you are a criminal defense attorney or counsel from somebody, right, you typically will give them the courtesy. You'll say, look, prosecutors even give us that courtesy. Hey, we're investigating your guy. We're going to go arrest him. You want to be involved in this? Yes, we do. Can you not do it, at his office, please? Right? And we get to talk about that and negotiate about some of it. But that's not what this is really about, is it? We'll save that for a minute. Donald Trump did respond to this over on True Social. And so let's get this one queued up. He was active today on this afternoon on his platform, which seems like it is growing quite nicely, I'd say. Here it is over on True Social, and I am on True Social at Robert Govea, so you can give me a follow over there if you'd like to. But he posted this about 3 hours ago. He says, all right, this was after Merrick Garland came out and said nothing for 4 minutes. He says, America, I continue to ask what happened to the 33 million pages of documents taken to Chicago by President Obama. The fake news media refuses to talk about that. They want it canceled. So 33 million pages that Obama took, no real questions about that one from the media, but they'll hyperventilate over Trump. Now, this is a little bit more substantive. He says, look, America, my attorneys and representatives were cooperating fully with the FBI, as that has been communicated through the Wall Street Journal article that we just read. He says, fully cooperating, and we had very good relationships that had been established. The government could have had whatever they wanted if we had it. They asked us to put an additional lock on a certain area. Done. We did it. Everything was fine. Better than that of most previous presidents even. And then out of nowhere, and with no warning, Mar-a-Lago was raided 6:30 in the morning by a very large number of agents. And even, quote, safecrackers says they got way ahead of themselves. Crazy. Yeah, they did, right? They're over their skis, certainly. They, I think, thought this thing was going to go a lot more unnoticed, or like people would say, oh, great. Yeah, you're a typical raid. Not the case. And Donald Trump continued on. He said, I also just learned that the agents went through the first lady's closets and rummaged through her clothing and personal items. Surprisingly, left the area in a relative mess. Wow. Yeah, wow, indeed. And, hopefully Melania's dresses aren't ruined. I would imagine that some of those FBI agents would probably stretch them out. So, hopefully they're not. She might as well just throw them all out. Just throw them out. Just clear the closet. You don't know what they did to them, so just clear it all out of there. So, all right, that's Donald Trump and the FBI apparently ransacking his wife's closet, and that's sort of a normal thing these days. All right, and so that is his response. And so, is any of this actually political or not political? This is all just sort of ordinary course of business. I'm not so sure about that. We've got this story over here from the fake electors saga, which is going on out of Pennsylvania. The FBI now, in addition to raiding Melania's closets, they are also individuals who are serving and stealing representatives' phones, right? Raiding and seizing their phones. The FBI took Scott Perry's phone as part of this, as we're learning, the fake elector investigation. It says here, federal agents seized the cell phone of Scott Perry, which we talked about. He was traveling on Tuesday, and we didn't know much about this at the time, but we now know this was a court-authorized search warrant. People said it now comes from a presidential election probe from 2020, and it's a criminal probe. Perry, they say, is an ally of Donald Trump who played a key role in promoting the false claims, and he said that the contents of his phone are not government's business. He said that federal law enforcement agents did not attempt to reach his attorneys before the seizure, just like others. Right? And the reason you do this is when you think people are going to delete or destroy evidence, right? That like they're going to evaporate it. And so you have no choice but to get it before they delete it. He wrote in his statement he would have handed the phone over had he been contacted. Justice Department declined to comment about it because you don't want to have to comment when you're prosecuting your political enemies. You don't want to tell anybody about it. Person familiar with the situation who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss the ongoing investigation said the phone was taken as part of a Justice Department investigation into the use of fake electors to try to overturn Biden's victory. Perry is the first member of Congress, do you understand this? Raiding the former president's house and seizing cell phones in criminal probes is the first active member of Congress who had a cell phone seized. You talk about all sorts of legislative privileges and sort of, the speech and debate protections and all this stuff. He had his cell phone seized by the adversarial political party, Joe Biden. He says, my phone contains info about my legislative and political activities, personal private discussions with my wife, family, constituents, friends, he said in a statement. As with Donald Trump last night, DOJ chose this unnecessary and aggressive action instead of simply contacting my lawyers, right? They are seizing his phone and rummaging through it. In June, Perry's involvement in pushing Trump to get the election, whatever, all this stuff you can see. I can't say a lot of that for YouTube purposes, but it is, this ongoing saga, and they're going after him. They have also served other Republicans in Pennsylvania. And this story came out today from a Pennsylvania newspaper. And, they're talking about local Republicans in Pennsylvania now. Pennsylvania delivers subpoenas to several Republican lawmakers now in Pennsylvania. Federal investigators went around the state of Pennsylvania and paid visits now to several House and Senate Republican offices in the Pennsylvania Capitol. So they're using the feds to go and intimidate local politicians in their own home districts so that they don't even think about it in Pennsylvania. Don't you even think about this next time. trying to alter the vote. We're going to investigate you criminally if you do that. It's chilling speech. It's chilling political activity. They are going after their political opponents so that they don't even think about trying this again. Like these are not federal politicians, local state politicians. We talk about this great bifurcation, the unnecessariness of the federal government and the great federalism debate that is going to be revisited all throughout America. At least some of the individuals receiving subpoenas were told they were not targets of an investigation, according to at least 6 sources that were reached by Penn Live, but they may have information of interest to the FBI. All the sources had been briefed on the investigative moves in some way, but demanded anonymity in order to discuss them. Okay, so a bunch of these local state senators and representatives are all, a little bit nervous, and they are, staying anonymous. The information being requested centered around the U.S. Rep. Scott Perry and the efforts to seek alternative electors as part of Trump's efforts to remain in office after the 2020 election, and so on. Spokespeople are not confirming whether their names are on the list, but as you can see, FBI, they're starting with Trump, they're going down to Scott Perry, House of Representative member, and now they're going down to local state level members. So, when Donald Trump goes out there and he says, they're not just coming after me, right? They're starting with me, but they're coming after you. He's exactly right. He responded today. He said he cooperated with the very messy FBI who is trying on all sorts of, Melania clothes. We're going to continue to follow this one. And if you'd like to learn more, don't forget to subscribe before you head on to the next video.